It's always a pleasure, and for me, it's a lot of work, but it's good work, and we looked at a lot of the things that the doctor talked about in preparation for these classes. Just a quick background on myself. I'm a former Navy fighter pilot, and I spent some time in Iran, which I'll show you shortly, but during the Revolution, and later on in life, I kept thinking about that period of time, and I didn't know that much about the history of Iran. And I lived just a few blocks down from here, and I said to get that great university up there. So I spent 5 years up there getting my master's and PhD in Middle East history. Hopefully you'll enjoy some of the things that I'll be teaching in class. The Safavids, as Kathy said, we start with them in this course. Iran in itself is a very important country today in the world. I'm not a political scientist, but I would argue that knowing the history of Iran a little bit better will help you understand what's going on today. We start with this period of the Safavid Empire in around 1500, when there were three great land empires in the world in Europe and Asia, the Ottomans, the Safavids, and the Mughals in India. And this was a primarily Shi'i group. So the course begins with an understanding, or trying to explain the differences between Sunnism and Shi'ism, which is extremely important in today's world. And I will discuss the origins of Islam, and then the two sects and how they differ, which is extremely important in understanding the history of Iran. In fact, if you look at the Safavids, right next to it, there's the Ottomans, and they basically formed their group, or their empire, based on not being the Ottomans. So it was important for them to develop a country that was primarily Shi'i. We'll talk about that. Shah first was probably the most well-known of the Safavids, and he centered his activities in Isfahan, which is where I lived when I was in Iran for a couple of years. Anybody who's seen pictures of Iran and the beautiful mosques, Isfahan is known for its turquoise tiles, and Shah did a lot of the building under his domain down there in Isfahan. So we'll talk about his influence culturally in Isfahan. Oh, that's not working again, Kathy. Okay, so I'll skip that until she gets up there. After that, the Safavids were very weak. They really could not extend power beyond Tehran, basically, and they were Iran was invaded in the 17th century by, really the beginning of the 18th century, by a group of people from Afghanistan, and the Khazars. And they couldn't tie themselves. It's not.
Hang on.
This is good for your mental health. Anyway, the Khazars descended, really gained control in Iran in the 1700s. They couldn't claim direct descendancy from Muhammad or that line, so they called themselves the shadows of God on earth to give them some legitimacy. Religion, obviously, very important. And during about this time, as we see a great battle, you may have heard of the Great Game in Central Asia. This is text by imperialism in Russia and also in the British to gain control of this very strategic country, and it remains so today. But Russia was looking for a way to get to the Persian Gulf. They have a lot of land, a lot of country, and the British, of course, trying to protect the jewel in the crown, which was India. So Iran got caught in the middle of all this, and foreign influence was the major historical thing to talk about during this period of time. Iran had a constitution, believe it or not, in the beginning of the 20th century, when the Khazars were basically, have some pictures up there, but the Khazars ended up being removed from power during the Constitutional Revolution, beginning of the 19th century, the 20th century, which never really came to fruition. And then the Shahs of Iran's father, who probably none are familiar with, Reza Khan, who was a member of the Cossack Brigade, the only military group, took over Iran in the 1920s. He was pushed aside at the beginning of World War II when the United States and Great Britain and also Russia wanted to use it for Lend-Lease program. Iran makes a great corridor for the Persian Gulf to deliver weapons to Russia. Reza Khan was pushed out. His son Mohammad Reza Shah, who we know as the Shah of Iran, came and gained power. There's Reza Khan. And then one of the most intriguing things that happened around the 20th century, the duly elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh was overthrown by a CIA coup. We'll talk about that, and it was kept undercover for quite a long period of time and finally exposed just about 20 years ago. Was it admitted that the CIA was going involved. And there was Mohammad Reza Shah, who was the Shah of Iran. Of course, this led to the Islamic Revolution, and we'll talk a lot about that and how that came to pass and the results thereof. And finally, post-revolution Iran and what exists today. So it's a very comprehensive course from 1500 on. I hope you will join me, and I'll be glad to answer your questions as I can. And there's I got a lot more hair back in 1977 when I was there flying that airplane behind the F-14